Hi everybody, it's Jason Lee from PHL 17. Welcome to the debut of Legends of Philly. This is a brand new show on PHL17.com. And here's the concept. We do so many interviews on our morning news, and there's time constraints, 4 or 5 minutes, and that's it. The time goes by so quick, and there's always so much that's left unsaid. Well, that's the premise of this show. We're going to have Legends of Philadelphia and actually talk to them for 15, 20, 30 minutes, have long-form conversations. And the one guy that I really had in mind when I thought of the concept for this show is the guy who's gracious enough to be my first guest tonight. We've had him on our morning news many times. I've interviewed him myself many times, and he's so much fun. And again, the time goes by so quick, so we figured let's get him on the show. And we call the show Legends of Philly. Who's more legendary in Philadelphia than Bernie Perrant, Flyers great? Bernie, thank you so much for being my first guest. I really appreciate it.
You're so kind. Thank you. My pleasure.
Well, you know what? I got to ask you first of all, and I've always wondered this about you. You have such a youthful outlook. You look great. What is your secret for looking young, for staying fit? You can probably give somebody like me a lot of advice.
How much time do we have to explain that?
We got all the time you want, Bernie.
Well, you know what? It's all, first of all, it's very important to me to have a vision in life, okay? And the vision is something that you enjoy for yourself, and with me, it's boating. You know this. You've been on the boat before, and
I have.
And
it's a nice
so
boat
to
too.
allow me where I'm at now in my life to enjoy boating, because we go out like 60, 70 miles offshore. I have to stay in shape. I have to work out, eat the good food, and everything gets to, it comes together, and it works out.
I know you do a lot of fishing on that boat, and I think I've told you this before. I've never ever gone fishing in my life, and I'm thinking maybe you could show me a thing or two.
Well, you know what? It's the first time. I think the first time would be to just go maybe 10 miles out, 5 or 10 miles. Just make sure that you're familiar with the motion of the ocean and the whole bit. And then if you're not, then we come back and there's no big deal. But if we're 80 miles offshore, then it's either you sleep it off or you jump overboard. One of those two things. So the options aren't very good. Yeah.
Now, I know for a long time your boat was called the French Connection.
Yep.
You recently changed the name. Can you explain that?
We have to go there, right? I'm just kidding. Well, of course, my pretty wife, is from Italy. Okay.
Right.
And she made a suggestion a few times. And how about we call it the Italian French Connection? And I thought about it for a while, and I said, why not? It's a beautiful thing. So right now, it's called the Italian French Connection. How about that?
I love it. I love it. All right, let's go back to your early days, if you don't mind. When growing up in Canada, when did you realize that you were good at hockey and maybe you could do this for a living?
Well, when I was a quick little story here. When I was 13, I wanted to become a defenseman. This is again back in Montreal, outdoor rinks.
Okay.
So I got my skates on, the equipment, and you had to go around the ice once. And most players, did in 13, 14, maybe 15 seconds. And my turn came, right? And I was all pumped. I'm going to do it. Well, it took me 21 seconds.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so the coach looked at me and said, goaltender. Okay. So, okay. So I put the pads on and the skates, and it's the first time I played goal on skates. And my first game, they scored 21 goals against me.
Oh
So
my gosh.
after the game, the coach looked at me and said, out of here. Okay. And then think about this. And then in those days in Montreal, the ice would remain in the street for 3 or 4 months. They didn't have the
Okay.
chemicals. So I decided to practice playing goal with skates on. And it's funny, after I think it was just about 5 weeks later, his goaltender got hurt. Then he gave me a call. He said, would you like to give it a chance? I said, sure. We won the hockey game, and then I was on my way. How about that?
Isn't it funny how opportunities come along when you least expect it? But you know, you got to jump on those opportunities like you did, right?
Of course, of course. That was, somehow after once I start practicing in the street with the skates, the equipment on as a goaltender, that it became a passion, and I loved it. And when you love something, good thing, you know what? Guess what? You're the same way. You're a happy person, and when you're happy, good things happen to you. Very, very
I
important.
like to. I like to think I'm happy. You know, I have my moments like everybody does. So goaltending, because that was going to be my next question. You know, did you choose to play goaltender? But I guess you didn't. You kind of fell into it.
Well, I fell into it, and because I made a decision to practice, and because I always played goal, but in the streets, but with boots on, never had the skates. And once I got the skates on, put the skates on, I started getting a little bit better, got my balance back, and then it became fun. And then when it becomes fun, then you have vision. And even at the young age, when I was 15, think about this, my vision, my goal was to play in the National Hockey League. And I want to share
Right.
this with people, that old story here. When you have a vision and you're moving forward to that vision, criticism will come. You're not, how many times I heard you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not big
Oh,
enough, and all that stuff. I
we've all heard that.
I
Yep.
chose to ignore this and move forward towards my vision, and that's how it works.
I love that. I love that. So you break into the NHL with the Boston Bruins. Then they leave you unprotected in the 1967 expansion draft.
Mhm.
You get taken by the Flyers. This town had never had really hockey, never had a National Hockey League team. So what's it like for you, a guy growing up with a hockey background, coming to Philadelphia, a town that really didn't know much about hockey? What's going through your mind when that happens?
Well, remember that we had on the team we had 22 players feeling the same way.
Yeah, right.
And six more teams that came in the league, and I look at this as the opportunity to play National Hockey League. And what happened in the first 2 years I played in Philly, and my God, we played in front of 4,000 people, maybe 3,000 people, right? And the motivation was, you really had to motivate yourself, because only perform in front of 3,000 people at home. On
Right.
the road, when we played Montreal and the same time we played in front of 18,000 people. But it's a, you know what? It was difficult at one time, but we had a group. One thing you learn in sports, Jason, is you have a job to do. In my case, it was goaltending, right? But if you want to win, if you want to succeed, it's just like in life in general. You have to be surrounded by good people. You can't do it by yourself. And we had a good bunch of people that we believe in ourselves, and that's how we made it happen.
That first season, so many things happened that season. Didn't the roof blow off of the Spectrum that first season, and you had to play a bunch of games on the road? What was that like?
Yeah, well, it was a yeah, we played in Toronto, I believe. It's a long
Okay.
time ago. My Lord, that was in '67.
Yeah.
I
Right.
was just a baby then. But
Yeah.
but we played the rest of the season. I think we played like 15 games, 12 or 15 games on the road, because we couldn't play at home. So that, what it does when you have a setback like this, you pick up the pieces and you believe in yourself, you believe in your team, and let's go and make it happen. And at the same time is we got, the Flyers. I was one of the Flyers they picked, in the draft.
Mhm.
And you know what, you have a responsibility to give everything that you have, and
Sure.
it turned out pretty good. Yeah.
So then the Flyers end up trading you to Toronto. What was that like for you, going to Toronto from Philly?
Well, first of all, number one is when you get traded, first thing that comes to your mind is the team doesn't want you. Okay, you have to be realistic. But when I got to Toronto, and um, then surprisingly, I realized I was going to play in Toronto with my idol Jacques Plante, who played for Montreal all those years.
Right. Okay.
And Jason, I watch him play. I watch him practice. I said, man, that guy's good, right? And finally, and you know the beauty about this was what was I about 23, 24, I guess. And Plant was 41 years old, so there was no competition. Think
Uh,
about this. And I said, can you help me? He said, of course. And he showed me, taught me, I should say, how to read a left-hand shot, how to read a right-hand shot, how your defensemen play in different situations, learning how your defensemen play, like I said, different situations. And I learned so much. It was incredible. That changed my whole career.
would you say he was the biggest influence on you?
Definitely, and I remember when I was a kid, 13, 14 years old, living in Montreal, his sister, think about this, his sister lived next door to us.
No kidding. Okay.
Yeah. And then he would come down once during the summer. I never forget, I was shy. I was watching through the, through the window, and he would
Wow.
get out of his car, you know, he had a hat on, smoking a cigar. He would walk towards the house, his sister's house, and my God, that was awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful thing.
So after the influence you got from him, you come back to Philadelphia first in the WHA, but then you make your way back to the Flyers. Now you're ready to win the cup. Talk about what made that team so special.
Well, there's a little story I have to share with you before it happened. At the end of the second year, I had learned so much from them, right? And
Okay.
I became a much better goalie. So at the end of the season, my second season with Toronto, I received a phone call from the World Hockey League, okay, trying to compete against the National Hockey League. Think about this. It's important for a lot of kids to hear this. And they asked me if I wanted to join them. Now, I had the security of Toronto, the National Hockey League, had been around for so long. Now, I make a decision: should I go to a league that is just starting again?
Right.
And I said, yeah, what? I said, why not jump? I always believe if you don't jump in life, you're going to live the same way the rest of your life. Okay, so it was very important. And I said, if it doesn't work out, I'll come back to the National Hockey League.
Okay.
Quickly, the rule was when you came back, you had to go back to your original team, which was Toronto. And the same day when I came back to Toronto, they traded me back to the Flyers, and I ended up with the team that won 2 Stanley Cups. Think about this: if I would have played it safe, that would never happen in Philly.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Now,
It's
getting back to your question,
okay.
they, you know what, playing in Philly, then you're talking about 18. I think we had 17,007. I think the crowd in Philly,
Okay.
and what made the team play so good. Number one, to have a good team, you need a good leader, and Clark was a fantastic leader, and we had a great coach and Fred Shero, and we played as as a team, and there was just those what it's for what 45, 46 years ago, and it looks like it went by so fast. It looks like it happened. It happened last year, for God's sakes.
But what's amazing about that, Bernie, is, you mentioned it's, 45, 46 years ago when you guys won the Cups. That team, that entire team is still revered big time to this day. Guys like you and Bobby Clark and Bob Kelly's around town and Joe Watson. You guys are still so beloved in this town. Why do you think that is after all this time?
Well, because I believe in life, you love people, people will love you back. It's very, very important. You have to be kind, and listen, if you don't have anybody in the building, then it becomes very difficult to play, and that's why I praise those guys now the way they're playing. There's nobody in the stands and they're playing very hard. But but the team, the association we had with the people. Okay, and we were, outgoing. We socialized with people. We met
Right.
with people. Then they and you know what? Then there's a bond that was built. Then people loved us. We loved them. And you know what happened? Something I guess happened is you don't have good games all the time. And when you have bad games, people love you and they accept that. Okay, and then you go back again because there's one big family. You have the team, and you have the people in Philly, right? And that's what you base on. So every time for myself, every time I step on the ice, it was us and the crowd against the opposite team.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the crowd, and I'm a lifelong Philadelphian, so I'm a lifelong Philadelphia sports fan, and I know the one thing that the fans appreciated about your teams back in the '70s is that you always gave it your all, and that's I think the thing that, to a point, people misunderstand about Philadelphia fans. When Philadelphia fans boo, it's because the team isn't giving effort. If you're giving a full throttle effort, even if you lose, we'll appreciate it. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, oh, of course. And like I said, beginning, I said we had a great leader in Clark, which is very, very important.
Yeah.
And we all, you know what, we all knew, like I had a job to do in goal. Defensemen had a job to do. The forwards had a job to do. We had a great coach. Fred Sherrill was awesome. As a matter of fact, when I first met him, when I came back from Toronto, I shook hands with him and he said, "You're on your own. I don't know anything about goaltending." Yeah, I fell in love with the guy. That was awesome. Yeah.
Well, and
But
I
that's
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
good. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and I know he's famous for that line. I guess before Game 6 of the '74 Finals against Boston, when he said, "Win today and we walk together forever," and you guys truly have. You guys,
Yeah.
even after all this time, are still a cohesive unit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sometimes uh, it's been a couple of years, but I take the guys out fishing on the boat.
Nice.
They enjoy this. We go out and we do some promotions. And we play golf, in golf tournaments, and we're getting a little bit older now, so everybody is doing their own stuff. But we don't forget we'll never forget that togetherness that we had that brought us to championship in Philly. That was awesome.
I want to get your thoughts on the Spectrum because, I grew up as a kid going to the Spectrum, and the Wells Fargo Center is certainly, it's a gorgeous building. It's a great building for the Flyers and for the Sixers, but man, I miss the Spectrum. I mean, when the Flyers scored, it sounds cliche, but the building literally rocked. What was it like for you coming out onto the ice in such a great building like that?
Well, you know what? Every time we step on the ice, we first of all, like you said, the crowd was go crazy, and then when we scored, and when we won the games, people loved us. You know why they loved us? We had a tough team too. We
Right.
had a good team, but we had a tough team. Schultz and Kelly and those guys were awesome, and it was exciting. The game has changed today. Don't misunderstand me. It's a good game, but it has changed. It's not like when we played in those days. If you're on our team and somebody give you a cheap shot, that guy paid the price. So people knew this. They love, people in Philly. They love action.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, all sports. They love action, and that's what we gave them, and that was a beautiful thing.
I want to ask you about your forte, of course, goaltending. The Flyers have had their share of good goaltenders over the years, but when it comes to real shutdown goaltenders, I'd say there's you, there's Pelle Lindbergh, there's Ron Hextall, and now there's Carter Hart. So, the Flyers have been around for 50 plus years. You're talking only four really stud shutdown goaltenders. Talk about why the position is so hard and why it's so hard to really find a good shutdown goalie.
Well, you know what? It's difficult because they understand the game, they understand your team, how your team plays in front of you inside the blue line. And I remember, um, my God, every practice we would spend a half hour on working on coming out of our zone. We had 5 different ways to do it, and we very seldom made a mistake doing this. So it's easier on your goaltending to do this. But we had great defensemen. We had some tough guys back there, and the players were coming back. And yeah, well, we had great years. I'm very grateful. It was part of those years. But you do your job, and it turned out good because in my case, as one individual as a goalie, is like I shared earlier. What I was able to apply what I had learned from Plant. Okay,
Right.
and then what I learned from Plant is then I would talk to my defenseman about my system, how I would handle different players. So the players, the defensemen would position themselves to make it a shot easier for me to be at the right place at the right time to make the save.
And all this knowledge that you have about goaltending, you then kind of use that to teach others. I know you were a goaltending instructor for the Flyers for a while. I mentioned Pelle Lindbergh before. I know you coached him, and so many of us remember that awful day back in, I guess, what was it, '85, when he had the accident. And I know the two of you were very close. He grew up idolizing you. That's why he wanted to play for the Flyers. If you wouldn't mind, Bernie, talk about what he meant to you, and talk about knowing what you meant to him, how that made you feel.
Well, Pelle, first of all, was a good kid, and we're talking about loving people. People love you back. Pelle was just awesome. Worked with him, and I remember one time during the season, he had a problem. He wasn't playing well, and things weren't going well. So I asked Keith Allen, at the time was the GM. I said, pardon me, I said, why don't we go in the minors? The American Hockey League. I'll go with Pelle, and I'll go with him for 2 or 3 weeks, and it takes the pressure off, and then we'll work on basics, to bring him back to where he was, and it worked out. He came back, and the beautiful thing happened the following year. He won. You know what? At the end of the year, I was in Toronto, presenting the Vezina Trophy to the
Right.
winner. They had 3 goalies, and Pelle was one of them. And I opened the envelope right in front of thousands of people, and I said, and the winner of the Vezina Trophy this year is Pelle Lindbergh. I almost put tears in my eyes, and Pelle came up on the stage, and it presented him the trophy. Just a beautiful memory. I'll never forget that. That was awesome.
Yeah, I know he was such a talented kid. How far do you think he could have gone, Bernie?
I I feel with Pelle the way he learned the system, the way he was playing, Flyers would have won a few Stanley Cups with him.
Yeah,
That's how good he was. And beside this, how good he was, the players loved him. See, it's very, very important. See, we
sure.
keep on talking. Yet before it's important that it's one big family, and you have to love each other. Sometimes you come across struggle or stuff like this, but the players get together, and that's how we played. And the players played for him; he played for them, and really, you know, he, that he became. That's when he became. He was a young kid. He became a great goalie. I
Right.
I think they would have won the cup with him.
I agree with you. I mean, he was a stud between the pipes. And I know, you said how the team played for him, he played for them. The same can be said for Carter Hart these days. Do you see Carter Hart? We've mentioned a couple times the Flyers haven't won a cup since '75 when you were there. Will Carter Hart be part of ending that drought?
He's a great goalie. I watch him play, and you know what? Look at the goaltenders these days. It's not like when we played. The equipment is different. When we played, the equipment was smaller, lighter, so you could make different. You could use your arms or whatever, to make some saves. Today, because the equipment is so bulky, that the goalies have to drop to their knees. Okay. And
Right.
what's happening when they drop to their knees is you're blocking the shot instead of making the save. Very important. So when you block the shot, the rebound usually goes in front. When you make the save, you redirect the rebounds. Different. This is he Hart. He's able to visualize how the players are going in front of him, because the game has changed. You can't
Sure.
study your defensemen anymore like we used to, because players are uh, they're everywhere today. So, but he doesn't commit himself until the shot is taken, and what it does is it helps him to try to figure out, because there's a lot of players in front of the crease anymore, and he has the ability to visualize what the play is going to do when the guy takes a shot. Then he drops to his knees and makes a save. He's very, very talented. And that talent is a God-given talent. You don't teach this. You're born with something like this. So I think, again, the Flyers, they're going to win the Stanley Cup with him.
I and everybody watching hope you're right. That's for sure. Hey, it's 25 minutes we've been talking. It's gone by like that. See, that's the premise for the show, because a guy like you, I could talk to for hours and hours, Bernie, but I'm not going to keep you too much longer. I want to ask you just a couple of rapid fire questions, if you don't mind, okay?
Yeah.
The first one's
Sure.
going to be a little difficult to answer, I warn you. I know this is no disrespect to any other teammates you may have, but the best teammate you ever played with?
All my defensemen.
Okay. That's a smart man.
The best. You know what? Oh yeah, this is you know what? And don't misunderstand me. Number one is Clark. The
Okay.
leadership that he brought to me was the best leader in the league when we played.
Okay.
And I said this for a lot of years, and I'll always say this, that he was incredible. And but the players, we had fun mostly, like when we had dinner or whatever, we had fun. We the defensemen and the goaltenders were always together. That
I
was
love
awesome.
that. Yeah. All right. I think I know the answer to this one, because you've already said his name a couple of times in this conversation. Best coach you ever played for?
Best coach is Fred Sherrill. No question about it. Freddie had a system. We believe in his system. And you know what? The best thing about Freddie was we had a system coming out of our zone, and what he did was he gave the guys the green light on, if you were able to create a 2-on-1, walk away from the system and make it happen. So Flyers had we had to play a system, but if you had the opportunity to create a good situation like this, then you were allowed to do it, and it was the players loved them, and you know why they loved them too. He never criticized the players in front of the other players. In the dressing room.
That's
If he
big.
had something to tell you, he would bring you in his office and share what he had on his mind. Very good, great coach.
Was it strange when he would come back to the Spectrum as coach of the Rangers?
Oh, of course, of course. But Freddie is one of those person that he did what he had to do in Philly. Then he
Yeah.
ended up with the Rangers, and then it was the same thing. He became the coach for the Rangers. Then he did what he had to do for the Rangers. That's what life is all about. Yeah.
All right. Toughest player you ever played with?
Toughest. Okay, I have two.
Okay.
All right. Number one, of course, my buddy, our friends, Dave Schultz. Dave was a good fighter, but also people loved Dave. It was exciting the way he fought, and 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 he was a tough player. But I think I think the toughest guy, you know, diff, it's different approach. Was Ben Wilson. I don't know if you remember Ben Wilson. He was tough, man. Dave was a kind, loving person, but Ben was mean. it was so mean that every practice I would remind him, Ben, I'm on your side,
Right.
be kind to me. But Ben Boston was also, so I think those two guys were the two toughest guys who played for the Flyers when I played.
All right. How about the best player you ever played against?
Yes, we played against a lot of good teams, but Montreal Canadiens were
Gotcha.
an awesome team. They had so much speed. They had the speed like the players have today, just incredible. Yeah, great,
All right.
great team.
I want to end. I want to end by taking you back to 2012, the Winter Classic at Citizens Bank Park,
Right.
the alumni game between the Flyers alumni and the Rangers alumni. I don't think there's any doubt that you got the biggest ovation that day. What was it like coming out on the ice again and hearing that crowd after all those years?
After all those years, it's amazing. It's a great question. I remember stepping on the ice, and we had like 45,000 people,
Right.
at the ballpark, and step on the ice. It was, what? It was the same feeling I had when I played for the Flyers in those great years came back. Just incredible, just awesome. And I told I said I can only play five minutes. I practice, get ready, but it's getting older, and I said I'll only play 5 minutes. So here's a good story. There's about there's about 10 seconds left.
Okay.
Okay, in my 5 minutes.
I know where you're going with this. Go.
Yeah, I'm looking at the clock. Then I look down on the ice again. Here comes the guy on the breakaway. And I said, Lord, how can you do this to me? And because we had a shutout going. And they were kind to me, kind shots, And he came down, and then boop, I made the save. And I know what he did. He shot on my pads on purpose.
Right.
And I asked him after the whistle, I said, why'd you do this? He said, my God, he said, I don't think I would have gotten out of Philly alive, for God's sakes, So, but he was such a classy individual. It was awesome.
Ron Duguay is a smart man, Bernie. I think he made the right move. But I still think you would have made the save, even if he didn't shoot at your pads.
Of course.
I still think you would have made the save.
Oh, definitely, I would. Yeah.
All right. So before we wrap this up, I want to tell people that you are a great follow on social media because you put out such positivity on social media. Have you ever done any like motivational speaking? If not, you should.
No. It's good. My wife Jeannie, she it really helps me with this. And what? Here's something that I learned, which is so important in life. Because you have to listen what you're saying to yourself all the time.
Right.
It's very, very important. And if it's a negative situation, by the way, catch yourself and then start thinking about something you're happy about. Okay. And then your mind changes, you start to being happy again and everything disappears. It's a beautiful way to live. Yeah.
I love that. So, okay, so it's at Bernie Parent on Facebook and on Twitter, and at Bernie Parent 1 on Instagram. And I'm telling you, it's a great follow. So if you're looking looking for a follow, looking for some positivity, you got to follow this guy, Bernie Parent. Bernie,
thank you.
I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to do this. When this show hopefully gets huge and it's won like 10 Emmys, I can look back and say it all started with Bernie Parent.
How about that? It's a bit beautiful, and you're right. I don't know how long we've been on, but it feels like it's only been 5 minutes.
Yeah, well, you know what?
It goes by so fast. It's incredible.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, you know what? And before we end this thing, I just want to tell people again, it's very important in life, be happy, and find something to be happy about, because there's so many things you could be unhappy about. Listen to what you're saying to yourself, and then shake it up and start thinking about something you love to do and you're happy. And then life will bring some miracles to you. Beautiful way to live. Yeah.
Well, Bernie, you have made plenty of people happy, including myself. Real quick, I want to tell a quick story, and then I promise you I will let you go. But just so people know
No,
what a
that's all right.
great,
Let's go.
just so people know what a great guy this is. So a couple years ago, Bernie, you remember, we did a couple of live segments on your boat on TV. And so you took us in and gave us a tour of your boat.
Right.
And I noticed you had a thing of cigars. And I mentioned to you that I like smoking cigars occasionally. My dad's a big cigar aficionado. Fast forward about 6 months, we have you at the studio, and I go to say hello to you in our green room. You pull out a cigar from your jacket pocket and say, "This is for your dad." I want to tell you something, Bernie. My dad still has the cigar, and I asked him, like, "Did you smoke Bernie's cigar?" He said, "No." He said, "That's a cigar you saved. That's a memento. That's from Bernie Perron. Are you kidding me?" So you made my dad's day. So thank you.
Isn't that awesome? That's beautiful. That's what life is all about, isn't it? You know, do good things in life, be happy, and miracles will happen. How's that?
Absolutely. And one day
Love you, buddy.
I do hope to love you too, and I do hope to get on your boat, because if anybody's going to show me how to fish, I hope it's Bernie Perron. Okay.
You got it. Bingo. I'm going to smoke a cigar. How's that?
I love it. Hey, Bernie, thank you so much. Please be safe. Please tell your lovely wife, Jeannie, I said hi, and I appreciate this so much. Thanks for joining us on episode 1 of Legends of Philly.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You're the best. You're a beautiful human being. So keep up the good work. Thank you.
You're the best. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Legends of Philly on PHL17.com. Bye, everybody.